The headlines haven't changed. Helpless migrants are flooding border entry points with no end in sight. Open arms sanctuary cities such as New York are suddenly having a change of heart. That vacancy light is starting to go dark. Chicago is now in the spotlight. The city has 16 open shelters with more than 13,000 migrants, more arriving each day. It's estimated that the crisis is costing the city $30 million per month.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, leave it to Chicago to continue to give us golden entertainment. And now we can also throw New York into the mix. As you heard from that opening statement, these sanctuary cities are really starting to feel the impact of all these immigrants who are crossing the southern border illegally and now being shipped to these sanctuary cities, as they so openly expressed to everybody that they were. However, now these places and the people who live in these places are starting to feel it, and now the people, especially in Chicago, are expressing how that this is not fair, that they should not be dealing with this, and that the mayor is coming up with some pretty kooky ideas like a tent city. And here's that clip.
How can you come into a community and dump people in our community like this? This is not fair.
The city's pressing migrant crisis in the spotlight now more than ever, and Southside residents are fired up over plans to put up tents. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Scott Schneider.
And I'm Dawn Hasbrook. Tonight, a meeting on the issue was filled to capacity, and many community members are frustrated that they were not let in. Casey Crona is live in Roseland with the latest. Casey.
Dawn and Scott, community members want to make their voices heard on this subject, and tonight many weren't able to. On the table is a proposal from Mayor Brandon Johnson that would place hundreds of migrants in makeshift camps in a former Jewel parking lot. At Sheldon Heights Church of Christ, an open dialogue on the migrant crisis hosted by Alderman Ronnie Mosley was packed inside and out.
First of all, they definitely chose this venue for a reason. They chose a small venue so that they could discourage the community from being able to show up.
With fall and winter fast approaching, Mayor Brandon Johnson is looking to move migrants from police stations into what the city is calling winterized base camps.
This is essentially like a Band-Aid to a gunshot wound. You are putting a Band-Aid on a huge problem at hand.
One potential site, the former Jewel parking lot at 115th and Halstead.
I think that's a bad idea.
They want to push this out of sight and out of mind.
But it's coming with pushback, many calling on the city's leaders to focus on the needs of taxpayers.
We are the residents of this community, and we demand that they do not put these people here. They're not even following the rules in the police station. What makes us think that they're going to follow the rules here?
Residents tell us they are in need of grocery stores, mental health facilities, and housing for homeless individuals. By the end of this year, the migrant crisis will have cost taxpayers $250 million. Reporting live in Roseland, Casey Crona, Fox 32, Chicago.
Now, if you made it to the end of that clip, you'll hear the reporter state that at the end of the year, this migrant crisis will cost Chicago $250 million. That's billion with a B. And in the initial clip, it stated that it would be costing them $30 million a month just to do this migrant project. Where Chicago all of a sudden is getting all of this money and this funding is absolutely head scratching, because they can't even really support the people that already live in Chicago, let alone they're homeless or people who need help and assistance already. Yet for the migrants, all of this space, time, money has become available where they can be housed, heated, given water, food, clothing, education for the kids, healthcare if anything were to happen, and people are getting fed up. Now, Mayor Brandon Johnson has contacted all the other aldermen of the wards to state that they need to find basically 2 acres of land that they can allocate to these migrants so that they can develop these tent cities. And as the reporter and this alderman talk about, winter is coming. There's no way that even with heating for these migrants, that they're going to be able to survive out in these negative temperatures of Chicago's winter. And here's that clip.
And now Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson has come up with what he thinks is a novel idea. He's asked all 50 of the city's council members to identify a 2-acre space in their ward to build tent cities to house the migrants. The mayor says that these tents will be equipped with heating and cooling and beds and food and hall and water hookups to house around 200 migrants each. But you do remember that we're talking about Chicago, right? So summer is almost over. Fall is in the air and winter isn't very far. Have you seen Chicago in the winter? The city set a new record in 2019, minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's the mayor's plan, to put migrants in tents and negative temperatures. I mean, what happens if someone gets hurt? Aldermen in Chicago are pushing back against the new mayor, saying that they don't have the space in their wards for these tent cities. And those tents would be used to for the homeless in all 50 wards if the migrant crisis subsides. And that doesn't really leave them happy either. So Alderman Anthony Napolitano is from Chicago's 41st Ward, and he joins us here. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. You know, I read a little bit about you. I think it's safe to say that, you know, Chicago, the state of Illinois, has your heart and soul. You love everything about it. You're a dedicated public servant. What is the city like now?
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, I wear this city on my sleeve. You know, we're going through a lot of changes over the years, and you know, for the most part, the city is beat up. The paid for riots and looting that happened years ago, we're still building back from that. Now we have this border crisis, or I should say, it's more of like a border abandonment because the government has abandoned the border, letting all these votes come in. That's what they're hoping for, I'm assuming. But our biggest issue here is aldermen like me. I voted against being a sanctuary city.
Now, before we continue that, I just want you to take a look, as he was talking about he voted against being a sanctuary city, what it is like in one of the precincts. To me, this looks like a scene from a movie where people are running from an apocalypse. They're running for their lives. They have nowhere else to go. They're just using anything as a shelter. Yet this is a police precinct. Take a look.
Now I'm being told that we have to find lots or areas to put tents so these illegal immigrants could come and sleep in and stay, when the city has hundreds, if not thousands, of vacant buildings around the city that they can use to put these illegal immigrants in until they find their final destination. Like it's costing us up to a tune of $30 million a month to pay for this, and a lot of this money is going to not-for-profit organizations. And we're trying to track where this money is going, because clearly you can see our police districts are flooded with the immigrants, and it's just not a good idea. It's going to demoralize and it's going to hurt neighborhoods more than help these immigrants.
Now, Chicago aside, New York has also started to come out and talk about this. And as you can see here, I have Mayor Eric Adams' Twitter page up, and he said, "We've always welcomed immigrants in New York City. Nothing about that is going to change." And this, as you can see, was back in 2017. Well, from this video just a few days ago, I think about a week and a half ago, his tune kind of changed, as he was basically saying this migrant crisis will be the downfall of New York.
We turned this city around in 20 months. And then what happened? Started with a madman down in Texas decided he wanted to bus people up to New York City. 110,000 migrants. We have to feed, clothe, house, educate the children, wash their laundry sheets, give them everything they need, health care. And this team here, we stated, let's do everything possible before we have to push it out into neighborhoods and communities. Month after month, I stood up and I said, this is going to come to a neighborhood near you. Well, we're here. We're here. We're getting no support on this national crisis, and we're receiving no support. And let me tell you something, New Yorkers. Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City. We're getting 10,000 migrants a month. One time we were just getting Venezuela. Now we're getting Ecuador. Now we're getting Russian speaking coming through Mexico. Now we're getting Western Africa. Now we're getting people from all over the globe have made their minds up that they're going to come through the southern part of the border and come into New York City. And everyone is saying it's New York City's problem. Every community in this city is going to be impacted. We got a $12 billion deficit that we're going to have to cut. Every service in this city is going to be impacted. All of us. And so I say to you, as I turn it over to you, this is some of the most educated, some of the most knowledgeable, probably more of my commissioners and deputy commissioners and chiefs live in this community. So as you ask me a question about migrants, tell me what role you played. How many of you organized to stop what they're doing to us? How many of you were part of the movement to say, we're seeing what this mayor is trying to do, and they're destroying New York City? It's going to come to your neighborhoods. All of us are going to be impacted by this. I said it last year when we had 15,000, and I'm telling you now with 110,000. The city we knew we're about to lose.
And again, throughout that video, basically sounds like there's no accountability. He's blaming the mayor of Texas, who has been dealing with this migrant situation because of the poor border support, who's sending them there to make a point. Yes, he's throwing it back at the people, basically saying, what have you guys done? When you're asking me about the migrant crisis, what have you done? When he is the mayor of the city. But about 2-3 months ago, he also suggested this to the people of New York, that they open up their private house to these random strangers that they don't know.
That's right. Mayor Adams also suggesting today that the city could pay people to house migrants in private residences. Sharon Crowley has more on the mayor's idea and whether he has the power to actually make it policy. Sharon.
The closer we bring the asylum seekers and the migrants to everyday New Yorkers, the easier it will be for them to transition into society.
Mayor Adams saying he's open to paying private homeowners to put up asylum seekers. Right now, it's just an idea that he's floating.
It's cheaper and it's a good investment for us to go to a family and assist them instead of placing people in large congregate settings or in these emergency hotels.
As if this is not going to be a safety issue. You know, how long are they going to be allowed to be there? Eventually, they could become like squatters where it'd be like impossible to get them out. It's all just messed up. But the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the numbers. And as you can see from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection site, this is the numbers based on the Southwest land border where a lot of these migrants and immigrants are coming from. Now, full disclosure, I'm not a Trump guy. I'm not a Biden guy. Not even American. So, you know, that really doesn't affect me. But again, the numbers don't lie. When you look at the fiscal year from month to month, and that's basically October to October, this red line was when Trump was last in office, 2020. The most he ever had coming through that southwest border was 57,000 people. And that was at the end of that fiscal year. The very first month of that fiscal year with Biden, almost 20,000 more people came through. And it just skyrocketed after that. You can see where the peak was 252,000 people. Now, if you look at the total for that fiscal year, Trump at the end only had less than 500,000 people. Biden in 2022 had already 2.3, 2.4 million people that came through. And the stats for this fiscal year hasn't even come through yet, and he's already at basically 2 million. And again, single adults, families, every single graph here, Trump is at the lowest numbers out of all of them. And again, I'm not a Trump guy. I'm just a numbers guy, and the numbers don't lie. But hey, love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think about this. I just find it hilarious that these guys are kind of now boohoo, why, crying about it when they're the ones who have said we're sanctuary cities, when they were the ones not dealing with this until the mayor started sending them over. But again, like I said, love to hear from you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks so much.